Late spring, and the fields burst into life. May brings the first berries and the butterfly. But above the forest floor, the trees appear to be in the grip of winter. Not a leaf trembles on the oak wood. The bare branches stretch out as if they had lost the rhythm of the new season. Desolation is everywhere. A specter stalks the woods, the larvae of the gypsy moth, vandals of the forest. The gypsy moth caterpillar will eat the leaves of practically anything. The brownish, hairy caterpillar is easy to identify by the pairs of red and blue dots on its back. Fully grown caterpillars measure from 1½ to 2½ inches long. Foreigners, the gypsy moths were first brought to America from France over 100 years ago by a Massachusetts naturalist. He tried to crossbreed them with the American silkworm moth to create a hardy thread-making caterpillar which would feed on anything. The experiment failed. Disaster resulted when some of the newcomers escaped. Their descendants spread through the New England woods, eating their way through the foliage of oak and apple, birch and alder. A single 2-inch caterpillar eats 1 square foot, 144 square inches of leaf surface every 24 hours. During its brief lifetime, it will consume more than 100 times its own weight. 5,000 caterpillars will devour more than a ton of leaves. Gypsy moths belong to the order Lepidoptera. Lepidopterous larvae are caterpillars with a large head and powerful mandibles or jaws. 3 pairs of short thoracic legs and 5 pairs of abdominal prolegs armed with rows of tiny hooks make them very mobile. Their unusual mobility accounts for their popular name, gypsy moth. Their Latin name is Lymantria dispar. Lymantria means destroyer. In early July, the caterpillars cease feeding and are ready to spin their cocoons. A strong wind may carry them on silk threads as far as 20 miles. They use this same thread to spin their pupal cocoon. The pupa is also called a chrysalis, the stage between caterpillar and moth. The larva's body hardens into a pill-shaped skeleton. Inside, the adult gypsy moth is forming. And on the barren branches of the oak, a second growth of leaves appears. Spring returns in midsummer. After about 10 to 14 days, the adult moth emerges from its pupal case. The metamorphosis is completed in shady places, shielded from the sun, which would burn the moth's soft, damp body. It takes some time to dry. The male gypsy moth has antennae like combs and brown spotted forewings. The female is larger and white, with more simple antennae. Lymantria dispar. Lymantria, destroyer. Dispar, unlike. Not only are the size and color of the two moths different, but the female moth cannot even fly. She is too heavy with eggs. It is the male who finds the female for their mating. They are born with no mouth parts, so they cannot eat. With only a few days to live, they must soon complete their reproductive cycle. The female attracts the male with a strong scent, or a pheromone, produced by glands in her abdomen. The male picks up the signal with sense organs located in his antennae. The attraction is intense. Once her eggs are fertilized, the female deposits them close to her birthplace, in velvety masses. She lays the eggs in clusters of up to 1,000. They are covered with yellowish hair from her abdomen. This covering will protect them during the cold winter to come. The downy egg masses measure about 1½ inches long. Once the eggs are laid, the moth dies. There is only one generation of gypsy moths a year. All through the woods in early August, the next generation of gypsy moths waits for the following spring. Severe winter cold will kill some of the eggs. Shrews and mice and some birds will eat them during the winter. But if the climate is favorable, masses of tiny caterpillars will appear again in late May, early June. Native enemies of the imported gypsy moth are few. The caterpillar's prickly, poisonous skin repels most birds. Pesticides tend to do more harm than good. The Calisoma beetle is the chief natural enemy of the gypsy moth larva. Efforts to increase the population of this beetle as a control measure have not been successful. Wilt disease, a virus, sometimes destroys isolated concentrations of the gypsy moth larvae. Experiments are being conducted with synthetic sex lures to confuse or trap the male moths. But the gypsy moth has spread from Massachusetts throughout New England and as far as Pennsylvania and Delaware. In spite of vast defoliation, the gypsy moth does little permanent damage to healthy trees. Sometimes the caterpillars just run out of food and starve to death. Their decomposing bodies fertilize the forest they so recently devastated. Change is constant in nature. The gypsy moth is an important agent of change. It may find its place in our ecosystem.